Hi, this is Anna Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole. I am your host, the Salty Bitch. I've got it. I arrived at the rod of truth and the point of comprehension. I got here and I went, okay, got the truth. I now can tell liars. I can find truth. It's oriented. And I looked at the origin, and my reason for looking at the origin was to solidify the truth. Now I've got logic, so I've got the metric, and I also have all of this data for relativity, and that's it exactly. It's okay. I've got the point of comprehension, and I've got logic to measure it, and now I've got all this data points. That way I can use that formula to assess it. So with the formula and the metric with the point of truth, I got it. But now I'm going, well, shouldn't I just have an origin? Yes, I should. And I'm going, okay, so what's going on with the origin? So I looked at the origin, and the origin I thought was the Jewish religion. It's not. So I'm looking at it going, so where's the origin? Now, there's rules with all origins. And this is what we need. I'm going to give you a very simple example. This is integrated mathematics. So this is integrated mathematics. So first we're going to go over the difference between summation mathematics and integrated mathematics. Summation mathematics is what you were taught. That is measuring quantity. That's all it is. You are measuring quantity. Do you have 1? Do you have 2? Do you have 3? Do you have 4? Do you have 5? Measuring quantity. This is summation mathematics. Summation means the sum, means the total. It does not mean integration, which means something entirely different. So in summation mathematics, when I say to you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we all know what that is. And when I say, okay, 2 plus 2 is 4, we know this. This is summation. You have 4 independents. You have 4 components. They are independent of each other and they stand alone. Now, that's summation. Integration is different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is the origin and the independent. It has no pre-requirement. It has no precursor. It is the origin and the independent. 2 is the the successor of 1. 2 contains 1. 1 does not contain 2. That is why it is 1 and then 2. 3 is the summation, the integration of 1 and 2. 3 is both 2 and 1. So 3 contains 2 and 1. 2 contains 1. 1 is the common denominator of 1, 2, and 3. 4 is the integrated whole of 1 and 2 and 3 in all sorts of variations. 4 contains 3 and 1. It contains 2 and 2. It contains 1 and 3. It contains 4 ones. 4 is the integration of 2 and 3 and 1. 1 is the common denominator of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Do you see where I'm going with this? 5 is the integration of the components 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 is 1 and 4, or 3 and 2, or 5 ones. It is the components of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 is the common denominator of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is the origin. This is how evolution works. This is evolution. You are the successor of your mom and dad. Your mom and dad lack the components that you have. You have the components of your mom and dad. They have the components of their parents. You have the components of all of the parents before you, which is more than the components that your parents have. Now, when you follow a genetic line all the way back to the origin is the one common denominator that all things have. It is the one common denominator. That one common denominator is the origin, which means if it does not have the common denominator, then it is false. Only the origin has the common denominator, which means every religion in the world has one common denominator. One. Every mythology has one common denominator. One. So I asked a number of questions. Dragons, snakes, wings, tree of life. These are the common denominators. So now I'm asking the question, where are these common denominators? These are the ones that are literally in everything. Now we have the Chinese culture. We have the Japanese culture. We have the Norse culture. We have the Anglo-Saxon culture. And we have the Irish culture. They have dragons. So does Mesopotamia. Uruk. I'm just going to call it Uruk. This is the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. They have dragons. So that is one origin that we can check off. Snakes. Snakes are everywhere. They are the common denominator of everything. There is a snake in almost everything. Trying to find the origin of the one thing that has snakes in it, everywhere. And that's where we get into the rod of Caduceus. The rod of Caduceus, which goes back to like 6,000 BCE. Snakes are in the Old Testament, the Jewish religion, the Christian religion. They are in Norse mythology. They are in Irish mythology. They are in everything in the entire world. The snakes. So when you go back to the origin, they're going to have snakes. The origin must have snakes because they're everywhere. Now, if they are not everywhere, it's called an anomaly. So an anomaly means that it was made up after the origin, which is not the common denominator, so you can throw it out. So an anomaly, you can immediately disregard. Now, before we get deeper into this, I want to take a moment and look at the Native Americans. I want to look at the Sami. I want to look at Mayan, Inca, Aztec, Africa, Philippines, and I want to look into Australia. So all the indigenous tribes, these are people who are cut off from the origin source. Now, China and Japan were not cut off from the origin. That's vital. They were not. They're kind of part of the mainland. Russia, we're right here. I mean, the Rus were everywhere, okay? They were the ancient, like these were 10th century and 1st century pre-Russian. This is where we got the word Russian from, was the Rus, R-U-S. And they traveled up and down the Sclavinian. Oh, that's okay. So I'm going to throw that word at you. I say Sclavinian Ru, but I know for a fact that is like, that word Sclavinian Rus is like the Old Norse word for the people who traveled up and down the river. So that's an Old Norse word of that culture. So I know it's not anything, anyone is. You can Google it and you'll find it. I don't know the modern translation. I know them as Sclavinian ruse. I speak ancient languages a lot better than I speak modern languages sometimes. So Sclavinian ruse is an example of this. By the way, they also have snakes in their culture. So we see snake all over the place. So we can check mark snakes off. So the origin is going to have snakes. So that being said, Mesopotamia, they've got the snakes. So we got check. Wings, winged creatures, like winged magical creatures, winged human beings. We got angels. We got cherubs. We have Hermes. You see the pattern? We've got fairies and pixies. You see the pattern, okay? You get into the Eastern cultures and you see dragons with wings, snakes with wings. So you see this reoccurring. And when we get to Mesopotamia, we have the wings. Check, we got another origin. The tree of life. Yggdrasil is what the Old Norse called it. Yggdrasil. And we have the great world worm also, which goes around Yggdrasil. We have an Irish myth, same thing. They have another variation of the tree of life. We see this all over the fuck place. We know about the tree of life. And we see that also in the ancient, we see that in the Hebrew and the Jewish religion. Now let's take a look at the tree of life in Mesopotamia. So we know the tree of life is going to be another common denominator, and it is. So the origin is going to have the tree of life. So this is an example. This is an example of what to look for in an origin. The origin is always going to have the common denominator characteristics. Now, the common denominator characteristics are the truth. Now you are onto something. Now we have something. By the way, Loki would often turn himself into a snake. So we have shape-shifting. Shape-shifting is a common denominator. So now we're going to add up the common denominators. We have shape-shifting. Absolutely. Almost everybody, every culture has shape-shifting. We have animals and men. And that ranges from bestiality over into a camaradereship or a companionship. And this is common between animal and man. Shape-shifting, animal and man. And the other thing that's a common denominator is Taurus or the bull. We see that all over the place. We know about the winged creatures, winged animals or creatures. That's a common denominator that we see all over. We see the snake. That's a common denominator. We see the tree of life. And we see the mother. The mother is a common denominator. The word patriarchy was invented by a man by the name of John Filmer in the 15th century. He was a philosopher. Shit went down in the 15th century, maybe in the 16th century. Google John Filmer, Filmer, and patriarchy. And that is the heart and the beginning of patriarchy. The patriarchy was 100% an invention of John Filmer. It did not exist prior to him. Dragons, which are just snakes with wings and legs. Snakes with legs. Snakes with legs. Snakes meant healing and medicine. They were very good. I am going to use the word Morgoth, which is a great word for evil. Morgoth. For those of you who have not read Silmarillion by Tolkien, Morgoth, everyone knows it from Lord of the Rings. I do not see him. Where is Gandalf? Or I much desire to speak with him. And he says he fell by a Balrog of Morgoth. So says Legolas. A Morgoth was the epitome of all evil in Tolkien's Silmarillion. Of all the descriptions of all of evil, I don't think anyone ever depicted it more beautifully than Tolkien. I really don't know. He nailed it. There is no filth greater than the description of Morgoth by Tolkien. So I love to use the word Morgoth. Melkor, I believe was his other name. Yes, it was Melkor. And then he changed it to he was so fucking evil that the elves changed his name to Melkor. Oh, Nimberfril, Nimloth, Nenning, Nenya, K, Aunir, Morgul. No, that's Morgul, Moria, Mormangil, Mithrim, Mithrandir, Mithram. Yeah, he did his work. Melkor. There it is. Morgoth Baglir, the Dark Lord of the Enemy. Balgureth. All right, yeah, so it's Melkor. Melkor was one of the names, and Melkor was so evil that they could not pronounce his name. So they changed it to Morgoth. Now, the reason why I am diving into Tolkien is because there's very few people who did more work than Tolkien. In fact, the only other person who did as much work as Tolkien was Joseph Campbell. So between Joseph Campbell and Tolkien, they knew their fucking shit when it came to mythology, as do I. So Melkor is what Tolkien used. Now, a lot of people think that Tolkien used the epic prose and the prose Edda from the 11th century by a dude by the name of Snorri Sturluson. This is true. But there's a lot more here that people don't know. You know what else he studied? Mesopotamia religions. The reason why Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings was because he was really pissed that England did not have a mythology. He wanted their own mythology, and they don't have one. England does not have a myth. There's Irish myth, Scottish myth, Welsh myth, Norse myth. So he felt left out. So this is English myth. I love this man. He's like, I want a mythology. I'm going to make it. So this is a 60-year-old, an 80-year-old mythology. This is an 80-year-old mythology, people. This is how it looks like. So what he did was he literally, and it truly is because he's British. Well, was. So this is truly a British myth. British myth, which doesn't exist. It's an English myth. So I absolutely understand him here. So when you look at the name like Melkor, that is really, really, really similar to Marduk, which is the Babylonian evil that goes back to 6000 BCE. So every one of these common denominators is there is a great evil of force and a great good. So there's evil and good. And there you go. There's an evil and there's a good. There's a Taurus, there's a bull, there's winged animals, there's snakes and dragons, there's a tree of life, and there's a mother. That's pretty much all we got. Oh, we got shape-shifting. Shape-shifting is in all of this. And we have animals and man. Do we have anything else? Oh, yeah. One more common denominator. Magic. I'm going to write that one down. Magic. Now, we have the beginnings of the truth. Some of the stuff is going to be metaphorical. And some of the stuff is going to be a tribute to a culture. And some of the stuff is going to be hardcore science, absolutely. So the first thing I want to look at is the concept of shape shifting. I want you to take it out of the magical sense and let's go over to science. Science, evolution is not the same thing as word building. And you need to know the difference. This is really, really easy to know the difference between evolution and word building. Do you remember in Harry Potter, movie 1, when McGonagall demonstrates transfiguration to the class? So she's got a rat and she waves her wand and it turns into a cup. That is called evolution. It has evolved in a series of events from point A to point B without any evidence of its predecessor, any evidence of its predecessor, any evidence of its predecessor. Do I look like a fuzzy chimp or a fish? No, because I evolved. Word building is when you take the predecessor and you stack. So evolution doesn't stack. It creates something entirely new. It does transfiguration. Word building stacks. So we have the word beau, which then became beauty, which then became beautiful. It's stacked. Look, the origin is right here. It's stacked. Word building, stacking. If we did not evolve, then we would be a bunch of fish chimps right now. So are you a fish chimp? Because if you are not a fish chimp, then you evolved. So either you are a fish chimp or you evolved. Those are your options. You are either a fish chimp. Yes, no, chimp with an M. Chimp. Oh. A fish chimp. Not fish and chips. Fish chimp. A chimp that looks like a fish. Okay? You are not a fish chimp. You are not a fish chimp. Fish chimp. So either you are a fish chimp or you evolved. So you evolved. But words are not fish chimps. Actually, words are fish chimps. Words look exactly like their parents. That's because words don't evolve. You do, but not your words. Words compound. So words compound, stacking, whereas evolution doesn't, because evolution transforms. That's why we don't have webbed hands. That's why we have these things, because we evolved, okay? That is the difference between evolution and compound. That's important. When you look at shape shifting, you are looking at evolution. Shape shifting is evolution. Now, we're going to talk about the horseshoe crab. The horseshoe crab is old, and it has never changed. I watched a meme once that said, "This is God's perfect creation." And then scientists stepped in and explained, oh, it's evolving, but at a much slower rate. So now you have something in science called an evolutionary rate or a frequency. A frequency, if you have not studied music, is the rate in which something takes place. How often does it happen? Frequently. A frequency is timing. It is the rate in which something occurs, like a metronome. The most common metronome is your pulse. That goes at 60 seconds a minute, which is really mathematically cool. 60 beats a minute. 5 goes into 60 12 times. Oh, there's so much there to unpack. That being said, you are looking for the metronome. So it's not a question of whether or not we evolve. Oh, we do, because you are not a fish chimp. The question is, what is your rate or your frequency of evolution? That's what we're talking about here. Now, I'm going to look at Mrs. McGonagall. Professor McGonagall has an insanely high evolutionary rate. Okay, the woman can transform into a cat. So really all she's doing, you've done the math. I know people are like, oh my God. Oh, trust me, I know. I'm working on becoming a mermaid. I'm working on it. All we're talking about with shape shifting is literally the frequency of evolution. That's all we're talking about. It's the rate. Now, there's two parts to this. There is the actual lineage, that's called logic, and then there's the rate. So you have the logical sequence and you have the rate. The logic is the order of operations in the sequence, and the rate is what is the time between each point of change. I have the mathematical formula for this shit. It's awesome. So you have your logical sequence and you have the rate. Now, you put these two things together and you have growth. This is growth. This is how it's done. Now, you can stop the logical progression and then you're stuck. This is called a stunted evolutionary growth. Most of us are at 2, 3, and 4. We do not have anything to unlearn because you never learned. Learning is growing. Collecting information in your brain is not learning. Integrating knowledge into your tuition is. Integrated tuition is learning. You call it intuition? That's learning. So if you're not intuiting something, as in putting it into you, you're not learning. Now, you can take on information, but that's not learning. That's hoarding knowledge. That's not learning. Learning is growth. So the more you learn, the more you grow. Growth is an actual rate and a frequency with a logical sequence. But if your logical sequence has been disrupted, you're not learning. So as a result, you're stuck, which is why all of us, most of us, many of us are stuck at the second, third, and fourth ethical perspective progression. Is because we have not learned, which is why our evolution has stopped. Scientists have proven this. That all being said, when you understand the logical rate of growth and you combine it with what is the truth and the common denominators, we have the ability to figure out, okay, we got all these stories. Now let's work through this. Now, the mind of the 6000 BCE person was really primitive. In fact, on the scientific method scale, they were around stage 1 and 2 and 3, which meant they were highly filled with feelings, which meant they had a lot of images in their heads, and they really struggled with words. They were able to get some words out. So they used a lot of art to communicate with themselves. And we see a lot of animals and man. We see a lot of shape shifting. We see a lot of the same people together. We see animals and man working together. We see a lot of Tauruses all over the place, the bulls, and they threw those all over the place. And then we see like wings all over the place. Now, this was a common denominator in literally everything. Now, another really interesting common denominator is an apple. Idun's apple. I just saw another common denominator. Idun and Inanna, or Iana. So Idun, that makes a lot more sense now. Oh, I love word archaeology. It's my favorite. Let's do this. I-D-U, Idun, Idun. How do you guys, Idun? Idun. Old Norse. It's Old Norse. It's an Old Norse myth. Idun is she's the one who is the goddess, the keeper of the apples of immortality for the gods. So if you ate an apple, it made you young again. She wasn't Thor's wife. Who was she married to? I can't remember who she was married to, but that's Idun. And the D, see, we also have Danu, and we also have Iana. Now we also have Anu, which was Danu with that D. So that D, we can see that with Danu. We can see that with Idun. So we see that double N or that single N. So U and N are really, really common all over the place. We see a lot of A and N. We see a lot of two N's. We see a lot of N and U. Those three syllables come up a lot in Old Norse Irish, and also in Mesopotamia. These three are constantly coming up. Now, they also formed around the same time period. You had the Norse, the Irish, and you also had Mesopotamia. And all three of them make references to each other, like Drug and Drog. So we see Drug, that's your evil, and then Drog, Draugr, the R is silent. Drog, and I mean that seriously. The Drog is, the R is silent. So you have Drug and Drog. Now, this is interesting because now that's do. That's the do, the D-U-V-H, D-U-B-H. That's Irish. So you have Drug and Drog, and then you've got do. Give me a minute. I got to think here. See, I was thinking, so Shinsa, S-I-N-S-A-R. So S-I-N-S-A-R, Shinsa. The word Shinsa is Old Irish for black. And Sin, S-I-N, is Mesopotamian for moon. That's where Sin comes from. It just means moon. So Shinsa, you have black. In Shin, you have moon. Now, in the Mesopotamia, they also have something called like black night or black moon. And it's like, I can't remember what it's called. It was Shinsa something. But it was really weird seeing the word Shinsa, which is an old Irish word in the middle of ancient Mesopotamia. It was really, really weird. I'm like, what is an Irish word doing in the middle of Mesopotamia? Really? So there is really overwhelming evidence that there is like overlap. Also, there are pyramids in Persia. We all know that. And there are also pyramids in Ireland. We know that. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. According to Irish myth, which is actually not considered a myth, it is considered a legend. And it's called the Irish invasion. Because according to the legend, aliens came down and invaded Ireland. You can Google it, it's a true thing. The original Irish origin is aliens came down and invaded Ireland. There is an alien invasion in Irish mythology. Documented. Go read it. It's called The Irish Book of Invasion. Aliens invade Ireland. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I'm going to remind you, they had no Roman influence because Patrick preserved instead of allowing them to wipe it clean. So we have an alien invasion very clearly documented. It's like one of my favorite things. We have an alien invasion in the middle of Ireland around 4,000 to 6,000 BCE. That's right. And we see words like Shinsha, which is black, in the middle of ancient Persia. And then we see Shin. Now, this is the other thing. This is really interesting. So the Irish word for magic is Shi, S-I. So now you've got Shinsa, which means black in Irish. Shinsa means night, or I have to look it up, in Mesopotamia. And now they've got Sin, which is moon in Mesopotamia. But then in Ireland, she, as in banshee. Banshee is spelled B-E-A-N-S-I. There's a space. Ban, B-E-A-N, is woman. This is going to get interesting. There's a space. It is not B-A-N-S-H-E. I could slap some people. That's Anglo-Saxon. It's not that. It's B-E-A-N. That's van. Yeah, that's right. That's van. B-E-A-N is van in Old Irish. That's van, space, S-I, max, a mark over the I. So now it's Vanshi. So it's Vanshi. That means woman magic. That's right. That's right. Now, this is where it gets fun. Let's go over to Norse. So in Old Norse, their word for the she is the seed. That is spelled S-E-I-D-R. The R is silent. So now you've got S-E-I-D-R, and then you've got S-I. We're not done yet. In Old Norse, the gods, there were two groups of gods. One of them was called the Aesir, A-E-S-I-R, accent mark over that I. And then you had the Vanir. Now we all know Vanir from the Vanaheim. And Aesir, well, that would be Asgard. So that's where that came from. So you can see how these words, like culturally, influenced each other. Now watch this. Let's go back over to Mesopotamia. A-E, they have Enlil over there. And they have Ea, which is literally the wind god or the water god. Yeah, they have the water god, Ea. And they have Ashur, A-S-S-U-R, A-S-S-U-R. And that means wisdom. And that gave us the word Assyria. So now you can see this is so much cleaner when Rome gets the fuck out of my shit. This is so much easier to just, this is what I've been trying to do for a long time. And I'm like, why doesn't this, what's this, somebody fuck this up. So once I was able to like get to Mesopotamia, then it's like, oh, there's the missing piece. And it just clings, it's beautiful. So Ashur, A-S-S-U-R, and then you've got the Asir, and then you've got the Vanir, and now you've got, and this is, by the way, when you have Danu over in Ireland, but you've got Anu, D-Anu over in Mesopotamia, and then you've got the Drug and the Drog and the Du with the Shinsa and the Shinsa, which is sin, also with the She. You see how these three cultures really influenced each other? A lot. Like it's all coming together. So, and the beautiful thing is the Danube River is like flows from like, it's the longest river. I believe it's the longest river in all of Europe is the Danube River. And this is interesting when you look up the history of the Danube River. It's an old history. Like, I need to go back on it. It is such an old history, they can't even track it. That is how old Danube is. And it was when I got into the research on Danu, as in the Tuatha De Danu, that they mentioned, I am totally butchering some parts of this Irish language, by the way, that they were saying that Danu gave the namesake throughout all of, you want to talk about the Roman Empire culture, let's talk about the Irish Empire. And that's the part that was completely removed because Danu spanned, first she came down via an alien spaceship. Okay, there's no spaceship, but how did they get here? I mean, really? I mean, come on. So first the aliens arrive, according to Irish legend, and then they take over all of the world and she gets the Danu. And then she shows up down in Mesopotamia. Now, flip side of all of that. The flip side of all of that is all of the ancient Greek. There's a lot of ancient Greek where one of the parallels is there was a lot of Greek gods that crossed over. For instance, Tyr. Tyr is in both Old Norse and in Tyr is literally in Old Norse, ancient Greek, and also Irish. So when you start looking at ancient Greek religion, this is it right here. You can tell where they pulled from both the Irish, the Norse, and the Mesopotamian. So ancient Greek, I have been waiting 40 years to say this. Ancient Greek is the integration of ancient Irish, Norse, and Mesopotamian religion. It is not an origin. The origin is Norse, Irish, and Mesopotamia. Now, this is what my work revealed. What they did, what the Irish myth, what the Norse myth, and what Mesopotamia did was give you three perspectives. We call that data points in math. So we have three data points. We have the Irish point of view. We have the Norse point of view. And we have the Mesopotamian point of view. And then when you integrate these three things, you get ancient Greece. After ancient Greece, for many reasons which I might get into here, Rome changed the language over to the Roman language. And then, poof, we've got two religions suddenly pop up. The Judaic religion and the Christian religion, which date from 300 BCE up to, well, present day. I'm so ancient right now that my brain's in the wrong era. 300 BCE to present. The Zoroastrian came in at 600 BCE from Mesopotamian and Irish and Norse. And that branched off into Zoroastrian, the religion, which is also present day. We can see that in the culture. Now, they also branched off and gave us Confucianism and Hinduism. It's so funny because Islam literally just kind of pops out of nowhere and it truly is its own, but it's very well documented and it's using the exact same practices as Zoroastrian. Exact same. There is so much that is Islam is. It's like somebody decided to reverse engineer everything from scratch. Well, someone, Muhammad, decided to start over and reverse engineer everything from scratch, which is what I did. So he did this with Islam in the 7th, I believe, century AD. And I did it here. I'm just going to put Anna here. And I did this in the I did it my whole life. So I'm just going to put Anna and we're going to put this in the 21st century AD. So basically Muhammad did, and then I did my thing. And it matched Zoroastrian, and it matched Mesopotamia, and it matched with a lot of similarities to ancient Greece. Now, this is where philosophy breaks off. Is Zoroastrian also gave us, oh my God, so this is my grid, and it's really starting to make sense now. Okay. This is an illogic I've had in my brain for like 40 years, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense, I gotta fix it. And now it's making sense, and I'm like, so then we got philosophy, which showed up. See, this all makes sense now. And I'm gonna say again, the indigenous tribes, all of the indigenous people. Okay, so the Sami are spot on with this. The Sami are the native Scandinavian people. They're very, very, very similar to Native Americans. And there's definitely, like, I'm going to just set those over there because they are absolutely reverse engineered. I'm just going to leave that over there. That does not invalidate them. It means that they are literally not influenced by any of this. The Sami were separate. I did so much research on the Sami. See, this is the beautiful thing about Norway and Scandinavia, is it is so isolated that it was literally the last thing. Well, it wasn't the last. It was the last thing to be converted. So all the religions, or I should say all the cultures in the Western region were converted to Christianity except one, Irish. Irish was not converted. It was integrated. So you get to look, if you really want to know the difference between an integration and a conversion, watch this. Norse mythology is conversion. Irish mythology is integration. So you'll be sitting there reading about the alien invasion. You'll be reading about the alien invasion, and then poof, Mary and Jesus show up in the middle of Danu's really weird festival. They had really weird festivals back then. Really weird festivals. Irish mythology is a creature. So you got that going on. That's what it looks like. And then you've got you got Old Norse, or you got the Norse myth. And that's a conversion. So you have a conversion and then you have an integration. So what we want is integration. You don't want to annihilate anybody. We don't want that. You want to share. So the question is, what are the common denominators of all of this? And that's the question we're asking. What are the common denominators? Snakes. Snakes are the new religion, people. That is the common denominator. It is the religion of snakes and dragons and magic, because those are all the common denominators here. Now, there's one really interesting thing. And this was the question that I asked myself many, many times. So this is what the graph looks like. This is where we are with everything, okay? So here is the question that I asked. What are we all fighting about? And I've discovered that there are two things we're fighting about. This is the best part. This is my favorite part. Okay. What are we all fighting about? Give me a minute. Because I know what we're fighting about. And I'm like, are we really fighting about this? Are we really fighting about? I could do this. Okay. All right. I can do this. So the first thing is, and it looks like it's the battle of good and evil. Definitely. Oh my God. Yes, that is a common denominator. So I'm going to throw that in here. It's the battle of good or bad. So it's Santa Claus's naughty or nice list. That's all this is down to. Good or bad. So that's the first thing. We're all talking about eschatology. Eschatology. Eschatology is the end of days. It's the end of man. Wisdom, knowledge, is the other massive theme in all of this, is wisdom. But really, and this is the common denominator, this is the big mother load of what the fuck are we all fighting about? We are all playing a game called Who Gets the Magic? That's it. It's who gets the magic. Who gets the magic? I'm going to write this down. This is the common denominator. Who gets the magic? Oh, yes. And these are the teams. These are the teams. Okay. Team one. I don't want to do that. No. The one team says only those people get the magic. And depending upon which religion you have is going to depend upon that answer. Okay? Only X gets the magic. The other team says everybody. That's right, everybody. This is what we're fighting about. Who gets the magic? That's right. 7,000 years of religion. And we're fighting over who gets the magic. I love this. This is exciting. And it's a common denominator. I get done with this whole thing and I'm like, really? Really? Is this what we're fighting about? Who gets the magic? What are the laws of magic? And that's really what this is all about. Oh my God, I wish I were lying about this. No, I don't. I could not be happier. I could not be happier. So this whole thing is who gets the magic. We can't agree on the magic laws. This is phenomenal. Now, we're going to be arguing about define magic. So this is me, ready? Magic is physics, people. It's the other side of science. It's really fucking advanced physics, okay? Fucking advanced physics. You got to study philosophy. You got to study all the academic disciplines. You got to study all the science. This is really fucking advanced shit. Okay, this is the stuff that took out Atlantis with their eyeball lasers. Yes, when they took on the wizards, which means philosopher and sage. We're fighting over who gets the magic. I'm going to calm down now. So what is magic? Wisdom. Magic is wisdom. Magic is wisdom. That's all this is. Magic is wisdom. Which is why they were called wizards. Sometimes I ask myself some really deep questions. Like, who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing here? Those are old questions. And I'm on to new ones like, so am I God? I'm a God. Oh, I know that. I'm a God. We're all gods. We're all gods. If this is the question now, isn't it? Who gets the magic? Because the gods get the magic. So who's the magic? Now, this starts to tell an entirely different story when you start asking these questions. And I'm going, all right, I can do this. We got to do this with science so it's credible. Okay. And this is the best part. This is the best part. This is So now here we are with our punitive little brains, looking at Rome going and ancient Egypt going, how did they create those? Magic! That's how they used magic! This makes so much sense now, which is why here in the 15th century, he's sitting there, King James, is sitting there going, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. You know, you wrote that in Leviticus. You know that, right? Leviticus. Like, you know, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, right? Right? The law of the Levites, according to the Bible, was 2000 BCE. You said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Right. Well, did you know that in First Kings and in the book of Daniel, they brought in those witches and wizards to consult with them? And God didn't get mad. God didn't sit there and go, God, you allowed them to live. No, they called them in and said, could you please take care of this problem for me? Because I need prophecies and sages and wizards to translate this for me. Yeah, all right. I'm looking at that going, well, that's what happens when you write your own books. You tend to be illogical, which is okay. I'm just saying, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Sounds like someone just got to see what the wizards can take down. And there goes Atlantis. And they're sitting there going, oh, shit, we're screwed. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Because they got really big eyeball lasers. That's right. That's exactly right. That's what we need to write in the books. They got eyeball lasers. Eyeball lasers. I'm down for that. I am putting it here that Anna wants it. Anna wants it. Okay. It's not an hypothesis. It is not at all yet. Scientific fact, unfortunately. But we're going to say, because Anna wants it, that it's eyeball wizards. Okay. Eyeball lasers took down Atlantis. I want the wizards to be standing there just glaring at Atlantis and it sinks. They just glared. That's what I like to think. Eyeball lasers. The wizards' eyeball lasers. That's how they sank Atlantis. Or maybe they disintegrated it. That's right. They just looked at it, disintegrated, and went, poof. That's right. Don't fuck with the wizards. My favorite moment in all of my research is when I was Googling the word wizard for the etymology, and it popped up, boop, philosopher and sage. And I went, I'm a wizard. And I really am. I am a wizard now because the word says so. I'm a wizard. So that's my official title. Google it. I'm a wizard. That's right. People are sitting there going, oh, you're a philosopher. No, I'm a wizard. Google that word. I'm a wizard. Wizard. That's right. I'm a wizard. So the eyeball lasers took down Atlantis. Okay, that's a little far-fetched. For now. See, I got science. And that's my question. Is it possible to shoot lasers out of your eyes? Sometimes I feel like I can't. Okay, now this is the best part. Oh, this is the exciting part. So Irish myth. I don't know if you know this, but aside from aliens, which is true because it's in the book. You can just Google it. It's there. Thank you, Patrick. So aside from the Irish being aliens, yes. Oh, that's the other thing. The Fíorbolg. So the Fíorbolg were monsters like Cyclops and enchanted creatures. They were monsters. But I don't really like to call them that because there's a lot of mystery there. But I'm looking at them going, interesting. So the Fíorbolg used to be in Ireland. And according to the legends, they spent a lot of time in ancient Greece. Hence Cyclops. So I believe that the Fíorbolg were Cyclops. Look at that, another parallel. So, oh God, I'm so glad my brain decided to do this when I was 12 years old. I'm sitting here reading the Bible, and then I started reading ancient Greek, and I went, there's parallels here. And then I started to read Irish myth, and I went, oh, there's a lot of parallels here. Does anyone notice that these are the same story? No, historians know this. It's like old news for us, but it's on a level. It's on a level that only like Joseph Campbell, Tolkien, and I know. Oh yeah, it's on a level. I make this look cool. Okay, now we have the Irish with their aliens. And then we got the Norse myths, right? And the Norse myths, I love the Norse myths. So the Norse, well, okay, so this is what a lot of people don't know. So I'm gonna like break Marvel for a minute. So I'm really fucking pissed at Marvel. I love Marvel. I really am fucking pissed at Marvel. I have a very complicated relationship with Marvel. This is my relationship with Marvel. Oh my God, it's Thor! What the fuck did they do to the myth? Oh my God, I love this. What the fuck? Loki was not his brother. Loki was like his uncle, and he went cross-dressing and did some orgy shit with Odin. This is kind of weird. Why are they playing this up like Loki is Thor's brother? That's not accurate, and that's kind of weird. But okay. Yeah. And then he's got this woman who shows up from Star Wars. And now I'm really confused. The Star Wars chick is there. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing with her? That's not what goes on according to the myth. That's not the myth at all. But this makes any sense. None of it made sense. Someone did not read the myths. Stan Lee. Just saying. So yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Marvel. So I had a lot of like, because I was like this deep in Norse mythology when those movies started to come out. And I'm like, I wrote Loki. Loki is in my books. And I'm like, okay, this is not Loki. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is this Tom Hiddleston person? This is, what the fuck? This is not my Loki. Oh, I love my Loki. This is not my Loki. My Loki was more like Gerard Butler in 300. That was my Loki. I'm just saying. So yeah, Marvel is not a credible source for Norse mythology. It's all wrong, but that's okay. We're just going to like forgive that thing because it's awesome. So in Norse mythology, there was something called the Sidkona and the Sidmar. The Sidkona, Sid, S-E-I-D, K-O-N-A. Kona is Old Norse for woman. Scythe is magic. Now Scythe is something special. Scythe is the energy. It's literally the electromagnetic field of the earth. That is Scythe. And they had ancient runes. They had the Distaff, which is wands. And then you have Freya. Freya is what Wiccans would evolve their religion from. And that came from Freya. Now, Freya had two cats that would pull a chariot. You know, it always bothered me that she had a chariot in the 10th century. I'm like, really? She has a chariot. Do you know who had a chariot? Because I've done a whole history on chariots because, fun fact, chariots, when Homer wrote Homer, did not exist. They did not exist until like the 2nd century, like the 2nd millennia BCE. And I'm going, okay, wait a minute. So chariots did not exist until the 2nd century BCE. And yet the Trojan War took place with chariots. But according to history, Trojan War did not align with the use of chariots. So the Trojan War should not have had any chariots. This doesn't make sense. Which means when I look at something like Old Norse and she's got a chariot with cats being dragged across the sky, I'm going, sorry, Snorri Sturluson. There's some information there that's not accurate. You were like 4,000 years off. If she really, and I believe she did, if she really did have a chariot that dragged it across the sky, then that would put it closer to the 2nd millennial BCE, specifically Mesopotamia. Chariots did not exist in Old Norse, except one. So now I'm looking at it going, what's a chariot doing in the middle of Old Norse mythology? The terrain doesn't match. Now, Snorri Sturluson was an Icelandic monk of the 11th century, so we forgive him. And the work he did was astronomical. Without Snorri Sturluson, there would be no Tolkien. Everyone needs to say thank you, Snorri. Everyone needs to say thank you, Snorri, because without Snorri Sturluson, there would be no Norse mythology to this day. It would be lost forever. Forever. You really have no idea. You have no idea. So Olaf Tryggvason successfully in 995 CE converted, it's brutal, converted Norse over to Christianity. So that by 200 years later, no one had any idea what Thor was. No one had any idea. Snorri Sturluson is the monk who recognized the loss of the religion, the culture, the words. So he accumulated, dedicated his whole life to the summation and the record of all of Norse mythology. And he wrote it down into two documents, the Prose Edda and the Epic Prose. And those two poems are literally everything we've got on Norse mythology. And because of that, we have the dwarves, we have the Vergar, we have Drog, we have all of it. We have the Ljósafar and the Dokafar. We've got Muspelheim and Vanaheim and Vaz Asgard, and we've got it all because of the work Snorri Sturluson did. So thank you, Snorri, because there would be no Game of Thrones without him, and there would be no Tolkien without him, and there would be no Santa Claus without him. So thank you, Snorri. Thank you, Snorri. So there is a lot of magic in Norse mythology. I don't think I have to tell you how much magic there is in Ireland. Like, it's the home of magic. And now with Mesopotamia. Now I get to dive into the magic of Mesopotamia. Something does not feel right there. I have a block. I can feel it. It's going, no, Anna. No, you are not allowed to go there. Why not? You are not. Okay. You are not allowed to go there. Fine. I'm like, yes. And then the just drained and it went, no. I'm not allowed to look. No, you're not allowed to look. It will interfere with the science, won't it? It will. Damn it. It will interfere with the science. Okay, so if I read too much in the wrong place, I'll get confirmed bias. So I have this beautiful radar from Mother Nature that says, if you read this, you'll get confirmed bias. Oh, no. So I have to reverse engineer it first. I have to do science before I can read it. So this is what I do. This is my science. I do the science and I find all the science first. Once I have the science and I sit down and go, here's the physics, here's the logic, here's the math, then I get to look up the history and see if it matches my work. That way I know what the truth is. This is fun. So I cannot, oh no, that's a big no for me. I am not allowed to research any more Zoroastrian or Mesopotamian magic. I did get confirmation that the Genii happened after the Magi. So it's Magi, Genii, and then there's no reference anywhere of Logi. That's something I'm still working on. But now it's going to have to wait. But I did get that one correction, which I think is why I had to go back to the beginning. So now that I've got this, and this is it really. So we have Irish, Norse, and now I'm going to, before I go further, I do have to give this disclaimer. I have not studied anything in the Eastern cultures. So whatever stories there are from Japanese or Chinese culture, aside from what I learned in Naruto and One Piece, that's what I've got. That's right. I am well aware of Kurama. I am well aware of Naruto. That's right. And One Piece. There you go. That is all I know about Japanese culture, is what I learned from anime. Yep, that's all I got, guys. That's all I got. Yeah, that's right. That's all I know about their culture. Yes. So if you guys are hearing like everything, all of my work, when you guys dig into it and you're digging deep into the stuff and you're going, whoa, well, what about this? I don't know. I haven't studied it. I have not studied any of the language over there. I have not studied any of the history. I can't even understand the logic of it. It literally runs by its own logic, and I haven't been able to break the code. Literally, it's a completely separate logic. So I haven't figured out the sequencing yet to even understand it. I'm going, I know they run off of dynasties. I have studied martial arts. I have studied war. I have studied the Mongols. I've studied a lot of the Mongols. I have studied the Great Wall of China, and I have studied martial arts like crazy. I have studied swordsmanship and blacksmithing of swords. That's right. And that's it. I have seen some really nasty weapons from that region. I have studied torture from that region. I have studied torture from India, and I have studied torture all over the world. So there it is. There it is. So I have to clarify, with the exception of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, I have not, like, I can literally sit down and write a very small list of, this is what I know about the China and Japan. Like, this is it. This is all I got. Oh, and the King and I. Yeah. Anna and the King of Siam. I got that one down. That's what I know about Siam. I learned about it in a musical. So that's all I got. So when I talk about this, and I know about the spice roads and the Silk Road, because Rome, you can't study Alexandria and not go, what's the Silk Road? You kind of know that shit. So that is my limitations on when I get into that. So I have to make it very clear that this is Western civilization only. And now Zoroastrian, Persian, and all that jazz. So I have no idea. Like, I am going, I don't know. I just know that Confucius absolutely 100% is like Zoroastrian Confucius. I can see that. And Buddha, yeah, absolutely. I can see how all the religions absolutely stem from Zoroaster. I can find that origin. So now it's looking for more of the common denominators. Now that the map is in place, it's a map. It's a map. I got a map. I'm very, very happy about my map. This is an exciting map. So yeah, that's what we're all arguing about, is who gets the magic. And we were all told that only the god gets the magic. And we're all sitting here going, oh my God, I think I'm magic. I think I'm magic. Well, hold your horses. Let's go the physics route. Let's get the science, because if you walk around telling people that you're magical, you are. But if you walk around telling people you're magical without the science, they're going to think they're going to think you're full of shit. So we need to make sure we do this scientifically. So line up against the wall and raise your hand if you think you're a god. I can't wait until I do my control groups, because it's going to be, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. This is my dream. I manifested this when I was a child, which is physics, and I can prove it. I manifested this when I was a child. I'm sitting there going, I want magic to be real. Magic is real. Magic is real. That's right. I manifested this when I was a child. Magic is real. And here I am. All right, let's do this logically, because we have to prove it scientifically or it's bullshit. So, oh yeah. I'm very happy with my life right now. I know where this is going to be in 5 years. And I'm like, no, you got to do this scientifically. Fine. You got to do this in order. Oh. All right. I think that's all I have to say about that. Who gets the magic? And I know what this is. It's the question. I can feel the one question that's pending, and I will ask the question. Hypothetically, if we all are going to end up with wizards' eyeball lasers, what is the ethical law of wizard eyeball lasers? That's the question. What is the ethical law of wizard eyeball lasers? And that's it. That's it. What is the ethical law of magic? And that's what we couldn't agree on. That's it. Who gets the magic? No one, because we're unethical shits. That's it. You don't get it because you're an unethical shit. If you're unethical, you don't get the magic. Well, you know what? We're all sinners. That's right. We're all sinners. You know what that is? We're all mooners, because now we know that sin comes from the moon. So just, you're all mooners. You're all mooners. That's right. That's what a mooner is. I'm drawing a logical conclusion in my mind going, the moon is powerful. We're all mooners. And this is really a power, fear, wisdom. I'm on to something. Very excited about this. All right, I'm going to go do business meetings now. And I get to go save the world. Operation Save the World with my wizard's eyeball lasers. Oh, yes, so excited. I don't know what my favorite part of all of this was at the moment when I said that Ireland had an invasion of aliens, or was it the wizard's eyeball lasers taking down Atlantis? I'm so happy. Or was it we're fighting a war over who gets the magic? I'm so excited. This is like the best world ever. This is the best world ever, people. It's going to be so fucking cool soon. All right, because it's science. Yes, cool science. Thank you. May the kindest of words always find you.